Hey there, it's Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids and Raising Organ Kids, where we teach little ones to talk and help parents understand their kids. And Christine Stevens, our sleep expert, is back. Christine, yay!
Hello!
Today, we're going to get a little bit more specific and talk about sleep in autism. And because we know that there's lots of autism, and there are many families who have children who are autistic. And I'm going to toggle back and forth with the language. There's a debate going on, I don't know if you know, in terms of what language should we be using to describe autism. So there's a little side note. Many people are starting to lean toward the idea that autism is not a disorder. It is an expression of neurodiversity. It is just a different brained way of being. And so to that end, if we embrace that idea, then individuals are autistic. It's a way of describing how their brain functions. Not everybody's going to agree. I'm agnostic, so I'm going to toggle back and forth for now until I come up with a better solution. So that's a long introduction. But here's the thing about sleep in autism. Up to 80% of kids with autism have sleep disruptions. And if you're the parent of a child with autism, you've noticed this. And so there's a couple of different reasons for this, having to do with sort of the neurological profile of autism. It can be hard for autistic brains to regulate generally, which means it's hard for them. It's usually not that hard actually for them to upregulate. It is hard for them to downregulate, which, Christine, I'm guessing is fairly important if you need to go to sleep.
True.
Tell us a little bit about what has to happen in order to be ready for sleep. And then we'll get into specifics too, but tell us about this first part.
Yeah. And we'll talk, let's talk about just kind of basic sleep hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
You have things that are going on that, with all of us, what are the basics of what are the things that we need to sleep and to get ready for sleep, and whether your child is on the spectrum or not, still going to be the same things. I don't believe kids are their diagnosis. I treat every kid individually, and you work within what that child's situation is. So we work on that.
Yep.
But talk about basics of sleep hygiene. We as human beings like to sleep where it's cool and it's dark. We don't like to sleep where it's too hot and having the sunshine in our face. That's why we sleep at night. That's why we like it.
Except that lovely afternoon nap when the sun is right in my face. I digress.
Nap is something, that's slightly different. But, all the trying to sleep at night in sweats and a big heavy comforter with the heat cranked to 80. So same for all of us,
And what temperature? Like, is there a recommended temperature?
68 to 72 degrees,
Okay.
Fairly cool. Some people like it a little bit cooler, but, of course, depending on, if your kid's kind of young, we're not trying to freeze them out of the house just yet.
Although some kids, I will say my son, for example, ran hot. He was always hot at night. He slept in the middle of the winter, still does, with his windows wide open. So,
yes,
individual preference.
They just like it even colder, but generally rooms should be cool and they should be dark. So basic things like always have blackout curtains. It's whether you live in the city and you have a giant street lamp right outside your kid's window, or you just have ambient light from just outside spotlights and things like that around your house. Yeah, block out the sun. Also helps really nicely in the summertime and the springtime when the sun comes up at 5 a.m. It wakes everybody up, because that's what we run off is the sun. Why we get tired at night. But things like having a comfy bed, a warm bed. Some kids like to have a little bit of a weight on them, a little bit of heaviness. I can't sleep with just a sheet on me. I have to have a comforter on me.
And this is interesting too, because we know that autism comes usually with sensory processing issues. And so I often say to parents in order to get them to understand how this feels, imagine that you've had a very poor night's sleep and you ran out of coffee and now you feel like you're jumping out of your skin. That is how many kids with autism go through their whole day. And often what happens is, just from like a tactile perspective or a proprioceptive perspective, in other words, knowing where your body is in space and sort of feeling good in your own skin, is one of the things that's impacted. And that's where, and we're not necessarily talking about a weighted blanket, although there are many, many kids with autism who benefit from having that weight because it gives them the boundary on their body that their brain is not generating for themselves. And so, as you're saying, weight, a blanket, sometimes a heavy blanket, sometimes a weighted blanket.
Useful for some, not for all.
Not for everybody.
It just kind of plays into the, comfy bed, comfy pillow, an optimal place that you enjoy going to. If your bed or your child's bed is not something that they find comfortable, then you have to do something to make it more comfortable. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the basics around just sleep, with setting up a sleep environment and sleep hygiene. And
well, so let's talk about some specifics now, because
so that's next. Yeah. Now that you set up, everything is optimal. We have a nice, wonderful, cool, dark, comfy room to go to. Now it's how do we tell ourselves it's time to get ready to sleep? Mm-hmm. And autism or not, with every kid I work with, we always work on the hygiene of getting to sleep and the routine, because that's how kids learn. That's how kids know what's coming next. Is I'm used to doing this. And that's a secure feeling for us of, I know what to do and I know what to expect. Some kids need it more than others, but having things like a good bedtime routine that doesn't last 2 hours, 30, 45 minutes is all it should take for your child to get ready for bed at night.
And this is interesting too, especially with the younger kids. And the autistic kids, who some of whom insist on rigidity, some of whom are trying to resist, so they stick to the routine really well. Some kids who with autism are trying to resist the routine because, for whatever reason, right? They don't want to go to bed, or they're not, their brain may not be giving them the signals. And some of this, and as you're talking, I want people to be paying attention to, there are internal signals that our bodies are generating in neurotypicals people that are not being generated in autistic people. So those, like, again, that sort of neurological down regulation of like realizing that you're feeling tired, that signal is not well developed in children generally, I don't think, but particularly not well regulated in autistic people. So their systems are not generating that from the inside out. And so what happens is we need to establish systems from the outside in. And so when you're talking about a routine that hangs together in 30, 45 minutes is a routine. A 2-hour thing is like part of your day. Right?
It's just dragging it. It's dragging it way too far out. Yeah. And how you structure your child's routine to get ready to go to sleep is up to you. And every family is a little bit different. But we don't want to have those overly stimulating activities that are going to counteract when we're trying. It's dark outside. Our bodies are starting to make melatonin to get us to sleep. What are we doing to get, oh no, let's have a dance party. Probably not a good idea.
Although I will say, I have had families, right, where that little bit of exercise, but now where it appears in the routine might change, but that little bit of exercise gets them amped up and then allows them to settle. So
for some, yes.
For some, absolutely. And I would say it's probably a very small minority, but sometimes the small minority are the autistic ones. So.
Right. And that's where we're mainly focused. So that's the one where, maybe a little bit of activity, but things like if you're if you're having a dance party and your kid's not going to sleep, it's probably the dance party's fault. Yeah. It's probably time to nix it.
Yeah.
But, things like starting off with a bath or shower,
Mm,
or even just if your kid just wants to wipe down, that warm water sensation is a different feeling than we do anything all day long.
mm-hmm,
So it's a nice first step to let our brains know that, hey, sleep is coming next.
mm-hmm.
Here's when, after the bath, it's like, okay, let's get our PJs on. Let's brush our teeth. Let's read a book. Maybe let's talk with mom or, parent for a little while. Just have some kind of relaxing time and then get off to bed. But doing those same actions in the same order every single night.
Yes. Yeah. And
so,
really staying on script too. Like, I used to use, and I still do, the same kinds of words, right? And one of the formulas I teach in my toddler talk class is I have several sort of scripts that parents can use, particularly with young kids. They work extremely well for kids who have autistic kids at all ages, which is X is finished, it's time for Y. So bath is finished, it's time for book, or first then, right? All of these sort of formulas that let us know, okay, this is wrapping up and now we're moving into something else. And I'm telling you exactly what it is. And it's, guess what? It's the same as it's been for the past X nights, right? But that sort of sequencing, and here's the other thing about that. The keeping a bedtime routine that's the same helps children develop executive function skills. Executive function skills are those things that help them stay organized, that help them be able to predict the future, to see themselves moving through space, and to get their own shit together later in life, right? So when we are imposing routine and structure, we are teaching their brains a lot of different stuff, not just about how to go to sleep. So it's got lots of different applications. I like what you said about the bath. Actually, most people give their kids a bath at night. I used to think it's because they're so dirty.
Well, that too.
Out all day.
That too, of course, yes. But it is relaxing. I'll even tell adults, go take a shower first. It's amazing. You kind of heat up and then you get into the nice cool bed, and it's very relaxing for us.
See, and this is interesting because I often do this. And as you were talking, even and for those of you watching, picture yourself going to the shower and having that warm water and then crawling into a set of crisp, clean, cool sheets. You can, right? You have
fresh
that
sheets you just pulled out of the dryer that you actually remembered to put back on the bed and didn't.
Right, and didn't leave there. But you can have a visceral, relaxing experience. That's what we're trying to teach kids with autism. That's what we're trying to teach all kids, because they don't know how to connect those physical sensations yet. They don't know that those physical sensations can be created. And so we are helping our kids develop these positive associations. Hopefully they're positive. We're trying to keep it positive, right?
We're going to definitely try. Bedtime routines are supposed to be relaxing activities. This is not I'm chasing my kid around the house and let's see how much playtime we can have and get all excited. So it should be a relaxing activity for everyone.
Yeah.
But being able to giving kids a little bit of independence too. A lot of kids really want that independence. So things like I will a lot of times use a bedtime chart, but I use it visually and verbally. Being able to, okay, what are we supposed to do? Like you mentioned, what are we supposed to do first? And they'll see a little cartoon kid sitting in a bathtub. What are we supposed to do first? This can also work for speech as well. What's that? What's that? Get them to try to say it. Yeah, okay, you know what? Even if bath comes out as blah. All right, let's go. Yeah, let's go do that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an attempt.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, okay, what do we do next? What's that picture? What is that?
Yeah.
And then as they get older, a lot of kids okay, you're out of the bathtub. Why don't you go get your PJs and come back, get your toothbrush wet and start brushing your teeth, and then I'll check your work.
Yeah.
But giving them a little more independence and being able to do things on their own.
Yes. Yes.
You can
And
see how
making
well
it
they've
fun.
learned.
You know, I think we get a little bit like, my child has to learn independence. They have to be independent. I have to like ream them out every time they're not dependent. No, we have to like, let's create a container where it's fun to succeed. I was a big fan of like, and my kids were not particularly anxious, so this doesn't work with all kids, but you know, I wonder how fast you can get your PJs on. That works for some people. It does not work for others. So if it doesn't work, don't do it. But yeah, that sort of allowing for some independence, allowing for some choice. You want to wear red PJs or blue PJs, right? And maybe one of the steps in the bedtime routine is choosing the pajamas. That could be a step. There was something I was going to say. Oh, transitions, physical transitions. One way that I see parents get tripped up, and this has an outsized effect with kids with autism, is when there are too many physical space shifts where you're changing locations too often. And so if the bedtime routine at your house is not working, one of the things you want to take a look at is how many different places does my child have to travel to get this routine done? Because if you're ping-ponging back and forth a bunch between bathroom and bedroom and upstairs and downstairs and all of this nonsense, their brain is not getting the signal that they are moving toward bed. It's too alerting for their system. They can't track. It's too hard for their brain to track in a predictable way. And so you want to just like collapse the travel as much as you can.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. And so if that means, you know, you are coming out of the bathtub, brushing your teeth because you're already in the bathroom, and then you're going to room, diaper if you're wearing one, PJs, bed. Of course, there's one trip to the bathroom. Okay, fine.
Of course.
Oh, talk about anticipating needs. You know, those ones who are like, but I just need.
Well, parents have to be the conductor of the bedtime train. That's the analogy I like to use. Once, you know, we start getting ready for bed, the last stop is your bed. We're going to make sure that our kids aren't going this way or off track. We have to kind of sometimes we have to bring them back depending on the age of the child. You know, they're going to stall. They're going to, but I need to go say goodnight to the dog, the cats, big brother, big sister, whatever. You know, okay. Is there room for flexibility? Yes. But if it's a, you know, is it a stall tactic? That's the other thing to look at is this kid using this as a way to prolong bedtime and not get to sleep, even though it's clearly time for this child to get to bed.
Yeah. Well, and particularly if it's getting added on at the last minute. Because
I usually allow it once.
Sure,
okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, they get ready to go to bed and they go, "Can I have a sip of water?"
Right.
Okay. You know.
Right. But then the next night, so this is a slippery slope, right? Particularly in autism, which is, oh, now my routine. So once is a pattern. I tell this to parents of autistic children all the time. For your autistic child, often once is a pattern. And so if you know that, then you're either going to make a decision about that water, and depending on the decision that you make, you may have to live with the consequences of that, and that's okay. Like, add a sip of water to the routine. It's fine, but do it
before you get to the routine of, exactly. Hey, would you like a couple sips of water?
Exactly. You can
maybe not a gallon of water because we don't want them having to get an excuse to get up and have to go and use the bathroom at night.
Right. Yeah, but you can be pre-planning these objections, right? These stall tactics. Oh, we got to say, so you're going to build in all the good nights, or you can do it when you go to bed. I used to put my kids to bed and say all the people that we were going to say goodnight to, and it was all the family members and all the dogs and all the cats and all the zoo animals and whoever else. We just listed a bunch of people, and that can be another way to sort of preempt their ability to stall by adding them in proactively. Is there anything else that we should be thinking about? Screen time.
Yeah, we almost forgot to talk about screen time. The big one. You know, I've had some parents, oh, well, my child relaxes when they're in front of that screen before bedtime. But man, as soon as I go to turn that off, it's World War III.
Yeah.
So I just let them watch TV until they're tired. So we talk about what are the things, what is that screen doing?
Yeah.
And the same goes for whether it's before bedtime or in the middle of the day, is that screen, that number one, the blue wavelength of light that's coming from that screen is like standing out in the sunshine. It's telling our brains it's time to be awake. So now
This
we're
is
not
interesting. I want you to say that again. I really want you to say that again.
The blue wavelength of light that's coming from a screen, a phone, a tablet, a TV, kid tablets, you name it, whatever those things, whatever those little things are called, is the same as standing out in the sunshine. It's the same wavelength of light. That's what tells our brains it's time to be awake. Probably not a good idea right before we're supposed to be going to sleep.
So, and this is a subcortical response, meaning there's no thinking required. Your brain is doing this in response to a stimulus, right? So what I'm saying is there's a stimulus and there's an automatic response from your brain. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you know that at 10 o'clock you're going to go to bed, right? You can know that all day long, but your brain is still going to be activated in the same way as you're saying, as if you go and stand in the sunshine, which is to alert your brain. Keep talking.
Wake it up. What is the other thing that screens do for us? And I believe you talked about this in another episode. It's turning on the pleasure centers in our brains. That's exciting. Ooh, Paw Patrol. Ooh, YouTube. Ooh, video of kids opening presents. Drives me crazy. I want to literally watch a kid open a box. And it's not that it's the toy, it's the excitement of opening the box.
Well, that's super interesting because that's like a whole other neurological process where you're sort of feeding off of mirror neurons and you're getting that. So not only are you getting the pleasure center stimulated by the fact that you're watching a video, which is that, but then the content of the video is also playing on that because you're watching somebody do something pleasurable. That's super interesting, actually, just like as a total aside. But yeah. It is not helping anybody power down for sleep.
Because now they want that toy that the kid just opened and it
right.
looks like fun.
Yeah, right.
Now I got to have that toy. Yeah. Really tough when the holiday season's coming up.
So this is really challenging though. So for parents whose kids do watch a screen very close to bedtime, what should they be doing? Like, how can they get themselves out of that?
Part of it is no. Part of it is setting a boundary with your kid of, realizing that, okay, this may be a problem. Well, then we've got to change. We've got to do something a little different. And that's going to be setting a boundary of, okay, usually an hour before bedtime is usually a good time to cut screens off.
Okay. So about an hour.
About an hour should be enough.
Yeah.
And, will you get some protest out of your child the first night or two? Probably. But eventually, okay, all right, that's not what we're supposed to do anymore. And they figure it out. Yeah. But the parent setting the boundary of, okay, it's time to turn screens off.
And if this feels really hard to you, if you're watching this and you're like, this is really hard. I feel mean. I
want to avoid World War III.
I want to avoid World War III because I'm tired and I have a crazy work schedule. And that is okay. Just understand that about yourself. Know that that's the case and change as you can. I mean, no one is going to do something. This is the thing I've come to realize, right? We're not going to do anything that we're not willing to do long-term. We're never going to make long-term change if it feels too onerous. And so don't fight with yourself. I'm talking to the adults here, right? Don't fight with yourself that you're doing bad things for your child if this is how you're getting by right now. But do educate yourself and make small changes toward the end goal and the end result that you would like to see. So maybe that's, your child watches television right up until bedtime. Maybe you're cutting back and 10 minutes before bedtime, you're going to turn it off. Maybe then you're going to move to 20. I'm a big fan, and I know you are too, of like incrementally reducing or spacing or changing things. Is there anything you want to add?
Definitely. I like the gradual method of reducing things a little bit. it feels a little gentler to me. You know, it's understanding that change is hard. You know, any kind of change is hard, whether it's I'm moving a screen time earlier, or I'm telling my kid they're not going to have a dance party at bedtime or something like that. You know, change is hard and it takes a little bit of time, but trying to do too much all at once and doing something that seems way too hard, then what's that? It's immediately we're going to tell ourselves we just can't do this.
Right. We'll do it tomorrow.
A little bit here, a little bit there,
Yeah.
and small incremental changes are more likely to stick than just, okay, I'm just cutting screens off completely.
We're going to leave it there. I think
Yep.
I'd like to have you back for a conversation about melatonin. So we're going to just like throw that little teaser out. We'll come back. We'll talk about autism, melatonin, and sleep a different day. But for now, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Always
Next
lovely to chat
time.
with you.
You too.